Okay. So on the last video I asked for 5,000 likes and you guys kind of went above and beyond. So today I'm gonna try and set a goal. Can we smash 7,500 likes? I don't even expect this, but if we do, that would be insane. Also, just like always, if you have a myth you would like me to test in the next or future episodes, go drop a comment down below with the unique myth, and the ones that usually are the top comments or the most unique, I tend to do most in my videos. If you do want to have the best shot in having your myth featured in the next or future videos, make sure it is unique, one that you think I haven't really done yet. In today's episode of the Fortnite Mythbusters, we are going to be testing to see what happens when a supply drop does land in the volcano. There were literally hundreds of you guys commenting asking what happens if a supply drop does land in the volcano, so I tried to do it to the best of my ability, and here's what happened. Jumping in the first myth is, can you become a snowman while you're inside of a cannon? When trying this in game, it was very easy to do. I basically placed down a cannon, dropped some sneaky snowmen for my second account, and then I jumped in the barrel of the cannon. I then got my second account to pick up the sneaky snowman off the ground and throw it at the barrel of the cannon. Surprisingly, the sneaky snowman grenade did pull my player out of the cannon and he did turn into a snowman, but it had the exact same effect as if you were a bush and someone were to throw a sneaky snowman at you. Basically what happens is that the sneaky snowman does get equipped to your player, but then it automatically gets removed 2 seconds later, which you cannot do anything to avoid that. I was surprised to see that it had the exact same effect as if you were to be wearing a bush and a sneaky snowman grenade were to be thrown at your player. Even though these grenades aren't still in the game, this was still interesting. Jumping straight into the next myth is, can you see a player through water with a thermal AR? Luckily in creative mode they added these brand new elemental blocks which you could place down and you can basically have water in your creative map. I then chose a shade of water which I see mainly around the map in the rivers, which is this darkish color water. I then picked up the water block and I enlarged it to be a massive size, which I didn't even know you could do that till up about a week ago. I then placed down a llama which had a thermal scoped AR, and I also changed teams, then started up the game. I made sure that you could still see the heat from my second account, but when I went on the other side of the block of water, you could see that you cannot see the player at all through the entire thing. I then thought that was just maybe a glitch because it was along the side, but I then went up to a higher level to see the player down in the water and you still cannot see him. But what was interesting is that you could still deal damage to a player through the water, so this basically acts as if you were knocked on the ground. You cannot be seen through the water with a thermal AR, but you can still be killed by shots. Overall, pretty interesting and something I didn't know. The next myth is, can you see a player inside of a cannon or through a cannon with a thermal AR? I thought this was a pretty interesting myth because, I mean, I personally do use the thermal AR quite a bit in game because it does do quite a bit of damage to headshots. When I had my second account go in the cannon, as you could tell, you could see the head poking out and the heat from the head poking out from the top of the cannon, but when you do go behind and even to the side of the barrel, you cannot see any of that heat at all. When looking at a player inside of a cannon with a thermal scoped AR, the whole body is hidden except for the head, which is hardly even poking out, and even then you still can't even deal damage to the player because they're inside of the cannon, which we tested on the previous episode of the Fortnite Mythbusters. This is something I'll definitely take into consideration. The next myth is, can you enter a vehicle after you've been launched out of a cannon? I saw quite a few comments requesting this myth and I personally didn't know the answer, so I of course had to test it out, not only for me but for you guys. In game to test this out, I built a little platform for any sort of vehicle. In this case I used a golf cart to start off with, then a little bit further back I put a cannon and aimed myself towards the vehicle. I then launched myself towards the vehicle and spammed E, which is my button, to get inside of it, and as you can tell I was unable to enter into the vehicle at all. I then thought this was pretty interesting, so I wanted to test this out one more time but with the plane, and as you can tell I was able to get onto a plane for just a second, but with the impact of the cannon it did explode and it set myself launching up into the sky to deploy my glider as if I was flying the plane and it was destroyed. So I guess you can get onto vehicles. The next myth is, can you enter a cannon while you have a bush equipped? This was a pretty interesting myth and I thought it was very similar to the sneaky snowman. I placed down a cannon in the creative map and then I of course equipped a bush onto myself and I entered the barrel, and as you can you can tell, you could get into the cannon. With the brand new transparency of the bush, you can't really see it that much while you're in the cannon for yourself, so I wanted to get a different perspective on this one. I had my second account use the bush and get in the barrel of the cannon, and as you can see, it looks pretty interesting. This is definitely something I wouldn't recommend doing in the middle of a game if you are trying to hide from maybe like another player, because it's fairly obvious that you are a bush at the end of a cannon. It definitely does look pretty funny though when you do get launched, because you see leaves flying behind the bush while you are tumbling through the air, and when you do land, it's literally just a bush exploding. What I thought was weird though was that the impact, the bush did not get removed from your player and you still had it equipped. Overall, I thought this was a good myth. Jumping into the next myth is what happens when a supply drop lands in the volcano. This myth took me forever to do. I was trying for hours upon hours to get this myth to finally happen, and it was basically just pure luck. I joined a Team Rumble game, and luckily the flight path, the direct middle of the map, went straight over the volcano, and luckily the zone circle was right around the volcano as well. While I was in the middle of a fight, I noticed that the supply drop did actually land in the volcano, but sadly it didn't go all the way down. What I thought was interesting though was how when the supply drop landed on the side of the volcano, it still made the same impact noise, but the balloon was still on top of the supply drop, which is normal. But when I was skydiving and I barely touched the supply drop's balloon, the balloon popped and it was just a crate floating there. Overall though, the supply drop was impossible to loot due to the force of the volcano just pushing you up wanting to skydive. We already know what happens when a supply drop does land on lava, so when it lands in the volcano, the main question was to see if it were to get pushed back up by the volcano's wind. Overall though, I thought this was pretty interesting, mainly because the balloon was able to be popped literally by one touch while you were skydiving, and it was just a crate left sitting there. It definitely would have been pretty cool though to see the supply drop being pushed back up into the air due to the wind's force, but sadly I guess Fortnite didn't think that far ahead and add those physics into the game. In the replay mode, you could see that the supply drop does make the impact noise and animation. The next myth is, are you able to damage yourself from your own cannon shot? This myth was pretty difficult to test out because the cannon, not only does it have some massive recoil, the cannonballs themselves go through basically any structure for maybe 2 or 3 walls. In game, when I tested this out, I put the cannon up to the wall as close as I can and shot in hopes that the cannonball would stay still. After none of that ever worked, I put a stair, a wall, and a floor so the cannonball can't go all 3 at once, so it would stay in the exact same place. To prevent the massive recoil, I put a bouncer to bounce me up into the cannon before it explodes, and sadly I never took damage from my own cannon shot. I guess this is good to know when you are in game though. The next myth is, if you edit a wall then reset the edit shortly after, can you prevent the whole structure from falling? This myth was pretty difficult for me to do because I can't do fast edits because my internet is actual garbage. Every game I get about like 10% packet loss and a pretty high ping, so it is difficult to do edits, but when I did test this out in game, luckily though I was able to do it a few times where I edit the wall then edit it right back shortly after, and it prevents the whole structure from falling if you do it quick enough. This is good to know, but I definitely wouldn't be trying this in the middle of a giant build battle if it would mean I would fall to my death. You could also save structures by placing down a wall before it does get removed also. Jumping into the last and final myth, this myth is, what happens if a llama is placed on top of a plane or a golf cart? I went above and beyond on this one and placed down every single vehicle in the game, including the shopping cart as well as the brand new cannon. In creative mode, I literally just placed llamas basically right on top of these vehicles, and firstly with the hoverboard, you can see that it does push the hoverboard and it made it up into this weird vertical position. The hoverboard was glitching and eventually shot out to me, which I thought was pretty interesting. I then tried this next on a plane, and as you can see, the llama does push down the plane's wings and it eventually starts to glitch out the plane. Unlike many other objects, the llamas actually do take up space in the game, and it does push the stuff out of the way. The outcomes for llamas on top of vehicles and all of these items were basically the exact same for all vehicles. Overall though, I thought this was a pretty interesting myth because llamas do have a pretty solid hitbox. So when you do hit them at a full speed with a vehicle, of course you will deal damage, making them explode and drop all of the loot. So I guess you might have that 1 in a million chance where a llama will spawn on top of a hoverboard and it will be glitching in the middle of a game. Anyways guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and also subscribe if you are new to the channel. If you made it this far in the video, leave a quick comment down below saying llama, and I'll try and reply to as many as I can since all of you guys are awesome for watching this part in the video. Anyways, can we try and smash 7,500 likes, and also drop a comment down below of a unique myth if you want it to be featured in the next or future Mythbuster episodes, and I will see you guys next time.